He trusted advice from strangers, opinions from friends, and approval from people who barely knew him. But the one voice he never listened to was his own. Daniel was the kind of man people described as reasonable. Not ambitious, not reckless, just reasonable. At 39, he lived in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio. He worked as a project coordinator at a mid-sized logistics company. Nothing flashy, nothing unstable. The kind of job people nodded approvingly at when he mentioned it. He had a decent apartment, a reliable car, and a routine that barely changed. Wake up at 6:30, coffee, commute, work, gym twice a week, takeout on Fridays, laundry on Sundays. From the outside, Daniel looked settled. Inside, he felt permanently undecided. Ever since he could remember, Daniel had struggled with one thing more than anything else: trusting himself. When choices came up, big or small, his first instinct was never to ask, "What do I want?" Instead, he asked, "What do others think I should do?" He trusted his parents' opinions, his manager's suggestions, his friends' advice. Even random comments online carried more weight than his own quiet instincts. It wasn't that Daniel lacked intelligence. He was thoughtful, analytical, careful. But careful had slowly turned into cautious, and cautious had become frozen. Years earlier, Daniel had dreamed of becoming a documentary editor. He loved storytelling, psychology, and human behavior. In college, he'd spent hours editing short films, fascinated by how meaning could be shaped through small decisions. But when graduation came, people around him had concerns. That field is unstable. Better to get something practical. You can always do creative stuff on the side. So Daniel listened. He took the logistics job for now, and for now quietly became a decade. Every time he felt restless, he reassured himself by collecting opinions. He asked coworkers what they thought about career changes. He asked friends if it was too late to start over. He asked his parents if stability mattered more than fulfillment. Each answer pushed him further away from action, because advice often contradicts itself, and Daniel used that contradiction as permission to stay exactly where he was. The strange part was this: Daniel believed other people understood his life better than he did. He believed they could see something he couldn't. And slowly, without realizing it, he gave away the most important authority in his life: the authority over his own decisions. The habit didn't stop at work. When Daniel dated, he adjusted himself to fit expectations. He asked partners what they wanted before asking himself what felt right. He stayed too long in relationships that felt wrong and left ones that scared him with their potential. He was polite, accommodating, easy to be around, and deeply disconnected from his own intuition. At night, lying in bed, Daniel often replayed moments where he had ignored his gut. The time he felt something was off in a business decision but went along anyway. The moment he sensed the relationship was fading but waited for confirmation from friends. The years he postponed creative work because someone else hadn't validated it. He told himself this was maturity, but underneath that explanation was a quieter truth. He didn't trust himself to be right. Somewhere along the way, Daniel had learned that being wrong was dangerous, that mistakes had consequences, that certainty was safer when borrowed from others. So he borrowed it constantly, until one decision arrived that changed everything. The email arrived on a Wednesday afternoon. Subject line: Department Restructuring Update. Daniel skimmed it at first, expecting another vague corporate announcement. But halfway through, his chest tightened. His role was being eliminated. Not immediately. He had 3 months, a severance package, career transition support. The company was moving in a new direction. Daniel sat at his desk long after the office noise returned to normal. His coworkers typed, talked, laughed. The world didn't stop, but something inside him did. For the first time in years, Daniel couldn't delay a decision. This wasn't a hypothetical someday. This was now. That evening, he called everyone. His parents urged him to find something similar quickly. His friends told him to use the time to explore options, but still be realistic. A former colleague recommended applying to another logistics firm. Every voice was familiar, logical, well-meaning, but none of them felt right. Later that night, Daniel opened the folder on his laptop he hadn't touched in years. Inside were old video projects, short documentaries, interviews with strangers, small stories about ordinary people. As he watched them, something unfamiliar surfaced. Clarity. Not excitement, not confidence, just a calm, steady sense of, this matters to me. And for once, Daniel didn't immediately ask anyone else what that feeling meant. He sat with it. The next morning, he didn't update his resume. He didn't apply for jobs. Instead, he wrote one sentence in a notebook. What would I choose if no one else had a say? The answer scared him. He wanted to try. Not forever, not recklessly, just honestly. He wanted to trust himself enough to find out. Daniel decided to give himself 6 months. He didn't announce it publicly. He didn't ask for permission. He simply made a quiet decision and took responsibility for it. He used part of his severance to cover expenses. He set strict limits. He created structure where fear could have taken over. Every morning, he treated his creative work like a job. Editing, writing, learning. Some days felt hopeful. Others felt humiliating. There were moments when doubt screamed louder than reason. Who do you think you are? What if everyone else was right? What if you fail and prove you should have listened? But something strange happened. Even on the hardest days, Daniel felt more grounded than he ever had at work. He wasn't successful yet. He wasn't validated yet. But for the first time, his actions matched his inner voice. And that alignment changed everything. The consequences weren't dramatic. There was no overnight success, no viral moment, no sudden recognition. There were missed opportunities, rejected pitches, long stretches of silence. But there was also something new: responsibility. When things went wrong, Daniel couldn't blame advice or expectations. When things went right, he didn't feel like he'd got unlucky. Both outcomes belonged to him. Friends questioned his choice. Some quietly distanced themselves. Conversations became awkward. So what are you doing now? Do you think you'll go back to something stable? Daniel stopped over-explaining. He learned that not everyone needs to understand your path, especially when you finally do. Financial anxiety came and went, self-doubt lingered, but beneath it all was a deeper sense of self-respect. Even if he failed, it would be his failure, and that felt strangely freeing. Months later, Daniel landed a small contract editing a short documentary for a nonprofit. The pay was modest, the hours were intense, but when the final cut aired, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Pride, not because others approved, but because he hadn't betrayed himself. Daniel's biggest realization came quietly. He noticed that the fear he'd spent years avoiding wasn't failure. It was self-trust. Trusting himself meant accepting uncertainty. It meant risking being wrong. It meant standing alone without borrowed confidence. But he also realized something else. Every time he'd ignored his intuition, he'd paid a price, just slowly, invisibly. Lost time, lost energy, lost connection to himself. The lesson wasn't that advice is bad. It was that advice should inform decisions, not replace them. No one else lives inside your thoughts. No one else feels your hesitation or your pull. No one else carries the long-term cost of your choices. Self-trust isn't loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't demand certainty. It simply asks to be considered. And when it's ignored for too long, life has a way of forcing the conversation. Daniel still listens to others, but now he listens to himself first. And maybe the real question isn't whether you trust people too much. Maybe it's this: what part of your life is waiting for you to finally trust yourself, and what is it costing you not to?